Can you guys hear me if I speak without a mic? Okay, because I am a theater major, so I have projection and I have a history. Okay, so first of all, I'll start here with the subject. Pride. What are we taught about pride? I always came from negative associations. I come from a East Coast background, and there was a whole lot of it. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. Pride goeth before the fall. It comes from the Middle English, pridi, which means the desire to exceed one's station. Think about that. That's a simple sentence, but think about one's station. Think about the hierarchies and all the criteria wrapped up in that. That's a lot of things in there. And it's a way of social control. It's a way of keeping you in your place based on a bunch of arbitrary attributes, or maybe not so arbitrary, but wealth, power, force, beauty, talent. So some of those are great, some of those are not, some of those are arbitrary. But so they asked me to give a talk on pride, and frankly, I wasn't their first choice. Somebody dropped out. So Jeremy said, and he just told me today that I was the second choice. I don't know about that, but I got to be honest with you. I have never done this before. And so somehow it came to me. I'm gay. Okay, pride, gay pride. But that's not what this is about. It's kind of what this is about, but I don't think that was it. And so back to the sin of the religion. I was thinking about that because I was raised, I'm going to wave this around a lot, I hope you don't mind, because I'm terrified. I don't do this. But I was raised, my mother was Jewish, atheist. My father was Anglican, Church of England, agnostic. So what did they do? They brought us to Quaker meeting. I grew up in Quaker meetings. But one of the things that's consistent there, and I think is interesting to me at least, is I did a volunteer project and went down to Nicaragua and built a school and college, and it was sponsored by a church. A church was paying for me to go, and she said, well, will you mind talking to me about your spiritual upbringing? And I said, well, I think if I had one word for it, it would be conscience. That's what I was raised with, conscience, with knowledge. If you think about the root of that word, I'm being like academic here, I don't know why, just because it's easier. But conscience, with knowledge, self, truth. Truth, I think, is at the core of this. And I think that's something that brought me here to want to do this, because I have never given, I'm looking at my notes for a second, because I've never given a talk about my work. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've given talks and panels on education, on parenting, on adoption, open adoption. I've spoken on a lot of things, but never about my work. And I was thinking about that. And I've been asked, and I've always sort of shied away from it. And I wondered why. And I think part of it is because of pride, imposter syndrome. I am not worthy to take up your time. I am here, and I was only asked 6 days ago, I think it was. Somebody said Wednesday, but no, I think it was 6 days ago. And I have been losing sleep ever since. I have been staying up. I have been losing it, and I've had help to help get it together. But I think the key there is that I want to give you your money's worth. And then I realized this is free. The bar's very low, right? But you're giving me your time. And your time is one of the most precious things that you can give to anybody. On this planet, we only have so much, unless you think of maybe you're Buddhist and you think of reincarnation and you're going to come back and you want to come back better, and that's great. But there's also something in Buddhism, side note, the no self, which is interesting if you're talking about pride. There's the self and the no self. And I've never met the Dalai Lama, but the people who meet him say he is one of the most charismatic people you've ever met. But he's also worked so hard to have no self, which is, what a concept, right? So back to my speech. 6 days trying to make this worth your while. So I thought also, okay, I founded a successful agency 30 years ago. There's something there. I could talk about that. You might want to know about that. And I think I have a slide for that. Oh, I skipped all my, I'm going the wrong way. Wait, am I going the wrong way? That's the up button. Do I hit the down button? Okay. See, I don't do this, right? There we go. Catalysis, that's my agency. Catalysis, it comes from the Greek to cut and release, which I thought was really interesting. And the reason we're Catalysis, not Catalyst, was back in 1992, Catalyst.com was already taken. So I was like, okay, let's find something else. And this is actually an interesting concept because I think that's what we do, is we release inspiration, if you want to look at it that way. Wait. What'd I do? Don't do this. Oh my God, how did I go to the end? Oh my God, don't, hey, Jeremy. Oh no, this is right. This is catalysis. I thought this was the super secret slide at the end, which is also a video. How do we make it play, Jeremy? Hit next. Oh, that's the wrong one again. Okay, whoop. Oh. Make it work. I'm sorry. See, I am so nervous. I'm dying up here. This is killing me. Anyway, thank you. Okay. So this is the catalysis woo-woo. We have, over 30 years, we've had huge clients. Amazon, Microsoft, teeny tiny clients, the Giving Pledge, which has been an honor, the Gates Foundation. I think we've done over 4,600 projects in 30 years. This is crazy, 9 billion marketing touch points. That means an email, an engagement, something that has influenced somebody enough to take an action on it. I think that's pretty wild at anything. And over the years, there have been hundreds of people working at Catalysis over the years. And I'm really impressed to be able to say over 25% of the people working at Catalysis have been there for 10 years or longer. And the average in this, in our area of work is 3 years. And 60% of Catalysis's employees, or almost 60%, have been here over 3 years as well. So given the industry average, I think something must be working. And we're small. We're 50-something people. We've been bigger. But when we got bigger, I realized something. I didn't know everybody's name. I didn't know everybody. And it's not about me, but other people didn't know each other either. And I think that's a really important fact. So we've striven to stay small. At one point, several times, people are always want to buy. One big global agency came in that we were competing against and said, we want to buy you. And he came and I said, well, if you bought us, I don't think that would be a good thing. I don't think so. And he said, why? He said, aren't you scared we're going to put you out of business? And I said, I've seen your work, sir. No. I'm not going to tell you who they are because I don't. I will name one name in this speech, but I won't name his name. But I also said, if you bought us, I would want your job and your boss's job and your boss's 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 job. And I really like my life here. I don't want to move to New York or London, but I want to stay here. And so we stayed small, and we have ever since. And so we also, okay, now, okay, how do we go? There we go. We failed gloriously over the years. A lot of failure. Not a lot, but some good ones, some really good ones. And I think that's interesting because everybody maybe has heard the adage or not. It's where your failures happen that you experience your growth. And it's an interview question that I asked, and they don't let me interview anymore, but I'm looking at him. But it's something that I ask, what is your biggest failure? And if you can't quantify your failure, then you're going to make it again. And that's what I would like to say is we've never had the same failure twice. And I think that's been really great. So anyway, what are we really talking about here? We're talking about pride. So back to pride. That was the spiel. Rob said we're here to promote catalysis a little bit. There's the catalysis thing. But we're here for something more. And I think it's the way to do this is I want to tell a story. Going back to NPR, I worked at NPR, and I'll hold this just because. And then I put it down. I'll hold it. I worked at NPR in my 20s for a summer job. Well, I was going to say, somebody worked at NPR. There was a guy who worked at NPR in his 20s in the summer, and tell a story about somebody else. And I had a realization this morning, and I got up at, this is me, 5:30, and I rewrote something, and my husband, I came in, and I said, let me run this by you. And he said, no, don't do that. So I had changed it this morning, but the one thing that did come out of that this morning as I was sweating this is I have told so many stories over the years. I'm a storyteller. I was a director before I founded Catalysis. I kind of still am. I love telling other people's stories. Our marketing is telling other people's stories in a way that connects people to the companies, and I love that. And I thought, okay, I want to tell a story about a guy, and then I realized I got to rip it away. This is the first time I have done this. I have to hit you guys with truth. I have to hit you with like unvarnished truth, because that's pride, right? That's being who you are. And that's kind of terrifying a little bit. That's why I'm sitting down, because my knees are shaking. Flip the page. So, I think I lost my page. Oh, no, I didn't. So, this is a story. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So you're all creative people. We have lots of slides. But I think sometimes we overfocus on what is he saying, what is the deck. I do, at least. I look at it, I'm like, what he's saying doesn't match the deck, or what she's saying is exactly like the deck. Why am I listening to her when I could read the deck? This is ridiculous. So let's turn the deck off. And in my story, in my perfect world, I would talk to you from a radio story. And I would kill the lights right now. And we would be sitting here in the dark. And I asked Jeremy if he could. He goes, oh, that's sure. Of course we can. But there's windows, there's lights. So pretend you're closing your eyes. You don't really have to close your eyes. I was going to close my eyes so I didn't have to look at you. But make it easier, right? Okay. So I'm going to tell the story, my story. I was a kid, a 9-year-old, who moved from New York. I was talking about growing up in, well, there you are, in Yonkers. And we moved to Virginia when I was 9. And I was this kid with a New York accent. I was small for my age. And I skipped a grade. So they put me in a year with kids a year older than me. And I was a fish out of water. I'll show you a picture. Oh, wrong button. That's me at 9. Like, that's a funky looking kid with the shaggy haircut. Anybody see Stranger Things? I had it first, a decade before Stranger Things. Anyway, that's me at 9. And I was different. And I was often made fun of. And I was made fun of for something that I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know how to change it. It was hard. It was really hard. And I spent a lot of time trying to hide. But something in me needed to be seen. Something in all of us needs to be seen, right? But I was hiding. So somehow I got into theater. And apparently, I don't anymore because my voice changed, but I had a beautiful singing voice. They wanted to put me in the National Cathedral Choir. I was in the musicals. I could remember lines. I could stand and not walk into furniture. I actually, in high school, I was in Soul Squad. Do you know what that is, anybody? It's a thing in Virginia where we went around and danced, did what's now, like everybody wants to be on TikTok dances. We were actually dancing at the National Post Office, which is now the Trump Hotel, all over in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. And I was trying to find my identity and find a place where I could be me. And it was a toughie. It was a real toughie. And so I went into acting. And then, flash forward, I did a lot of acting. And then I got this job at NPR. And this is where I'm going to name names. I was asked to write a piece about what it was like being in your 20s and living in the world. It was during the Ollie North hearing, so that dates me. It's the 80s. It's the late 80s, but it was the 80s. And there was a lot going on there. There was a lot. HIV/AIDS was something that was unknown and terrifying should have been to everybody, but to a lot of us. A lot of people lost a lot of friends and loved ones. And It was really scary time to be. Crack. Remember crack? Crack was a big thing at that time as well. Now we have fentanyl and we have all sorts of other things. But there's a lot of similarities there. And so I recorded this piece, and the host loved it, the producers loved it, but there was this one guy, and he'd had my job 2 years ahead of me. And he got a full-time job there as a producer, and I was junior. And he was in charge of editing it to put it on the air, and he killed it. He killed my piece. My time to be on All Things Considered with Robert Siegel and Renee Montaigne, and I was so excited. Killed it. Killed me. I thought I wanted to go into radio journalism. Killed it. Killed that muse in me. Killed that spirit. And I want to go on to say, this guy, I think, was a little bit threatened because I was the new flavor. I knew better, but he was 2 years older. He didn't know anything anymore, which is a common feeling for all of us at any age at one point, right? Well, that guy is Ira Glass. Yeah. And it was before This American Life. It was before the Santaland Diaries. And I don't know that he was right, but he is one of the most talented people that I've ever met. And he is, This American Life has recreated radio, and it is the foundation for podcasting. So I want to give him his props. But what he did was he made me feel like I was worthless. There was another reporter there who some of you may know. She doesn't report that much anymore, but Nina Totenberg. And she was older. She was seasoned. She'd hosted. She was reporting. She was reporting on Ollie North hearings with Cokie Roberts and Nina Totenberg. Sorry, Linda Wertheimer. The three of them. And you know what they all were in this little glass. This isn't on the notes, but they were in this little glass room off the elevators. They called it the fallopian jungle. Like, how sexist is that? This is 1980, whatever. And the three of them were amazing, amazing. But Nina Totenberg asked my opinion anytime I was in the room with her. She asked me what I thought. She listened to me. She asked me what I thought on the Ollie North hearings. I went around interviewing cab drivers and making a piece on that because they were listening to the hearings all day. They knew better than anybody. It was another perspective. She asked me, there was a piece on miniskirts. Are you too old to wear one? Because they came back. She asked my opinion on that. I'm like, well, you got nice legs. Well, you can't say that now, but you know, it'd be like, she made me feel seen. She gave me something that was really important. And I don't know about you guys, but we all know what unconditional love is, or hopefully we do, and hopefully we've all had it. And if you've had it, you often can meet people and think, I don't think they've had that. And that's sad. How can I help them, or what can you do for that? But what I hadn't heard of when I became a parent, and I know I had it, but there's also something called unconditional positive regard. Has anybody ever heard of that? I heard of that when I was becoming a parent. And I went, oh my God, am I giving that to my kids? And this was from my son's therapist. And think about it. That one person in your life, hopefully, who thinks you are amazing. Not what your art is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. They don't blow smoke. They think you're amazing. You show them something, you do something, and they praise the effort. Wow, you're pretty wonderful. You did that. You're amazing. See the difference? That's amazing. You're amazing. That's unconditional positive regard. And that is at the core, I think, of so much of what we as human beings need. So, okay, I gotta go back to my notes. So, that said, I was in, oh, we're still on me there, oops. I was in theater. I was an actor. Oh, that's where I was supposed to be talking about unconditional positive regard. Anyway, that's me in one of the last plays I ever did. I'm over there at Williams College Theater, which is a pretty well-known theater program, and I was an actor, and I acted. And somebody came in, her name was Ann Bogart, and she's pretty well known in the theater world globally, and she came in and she said to me, you know what, you're a good actor, but you should be a director. Oh my God, she said I'm a bad actor. No, she didn't say that, and that's what a lot of people take from that. She said, you have a way of seeing people and seeing what they're doing and bringing that out and seeing how it comes together. And I want to tell you a side story about actors. Think about some of the best actors you know and I use actors because they're such a part of the zeitgeist always. They're the performers that perform because they want to be seen. But the best actors are the ones that want to bring an amazing character. And when you know them in real life, they're actually quite, I was going to say mundane. I was going to say boring, but that's not nice. I think they're quite average. They're working people who don't talk about their work. I don't talk about work when I'm at home. I talk about other things. They don't talk about their work. It's not me, 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 me. It's here's this amazing thing that I've made. Which brings me to a book that Anne Bogart recommended that I read years ago. And this is, you guys are creative folks, so I want to talk about this. There's a book, which I don't even know if it's in print. It's called Imagination or the Erotic Life of Property by Julian Jaynes. And he talks about the fact that there's two economies. And if you think about myths going back, it's in all the myths. This isn't in my notes. Sorry, Rob, that I'm going off book. The myth in all of our common stories and fairy tales, there's the economy of money. I give you money, you give me something in return. But there's another one about gifts. Artists have an impulse to give a gift. Their artistry is their gift. I was thinking about The Bear. Anybody watch The Bear? There's that whole idea of, they talk about hospitality and hospital have the same root. I was a waiter for years to pay for my theater, and I love waiting tables. I love giving people, I love clearing the places. I love making them appreciate a very small moment of the chef's artistry, but not just the chef's artistry, the artistry of service. It's all part of it, and it's something that we pay money for. But artists go, and I directed plays, and I waited tables, and I realized, God, if I don't stop doing this, I'm going to be 30, and I'm going to be making the same amount of money, and I'm going to be living in my godmother's house, driving her car. I'm not going to be able to have a life. So I moved to Seattle. I'm way ahead of myself here, but I'm on task. So I needed money to live, but I also founded a theater with 3 other people, and it's called Theater Schmieder, and it was in Seattle for 25 years. And one of the things we got the rights to do the Twilight Zones, so we did them. I somehow called CBS because my grandmother said, here's another one, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I called CBS and we said, can we do the Twilight Zones on stage? And we're just a little theater company in Seattle. And they said, sure. And they gave us the rights for $500 a year. And we supported ourselves on those Twilight Zones. We took them to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. We had people all over calling, could we get them too? How did you get them? And I'm like, I'm sorry, they don't do that anymore. It's just us, exclusive, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm also a business person, right? So I didn't want to be poor, so I founded that theater. But in founding the theater, we couldn't pay anybody. We were too poor. In theater, we were in a little basement up on Capitol Hill. But I had to find out why each artist who was working there wanted to give their time. Why was it worth it for them to show up? And if we go back to pride, they felt really good. They had an impulse to do things and to create things. And it was my job to bring them together, to create something that was better than their individual artistic inputs. I know that sounds very mercenary, but it is a machine in that way. But also that they would feel good about it and get something out of it without being paid a living wage or union benefits or what have you. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to Microsoft, and I'm going to get a job there because they pay really well. This is back in 1992. I applied. They didn't want a theater major with a religion concentration and an Asian studies concentration. They didn't want that. They didn't want me at all. But I had a friend who worked there who got me a gig because I'd been at NPR interviewing CIOs, Kodak, we got the White House, like all these big businesses, and asking them why they used Microsoft products. And I was letting them tell their stories, and I was taking their stories, I was packaging them, and I was giving them to the sales team to use to generate more business. Oh my God, that's marketing. So somehow I got into marketing, and then they came to me when Windows 95 was being launched, and they said, we liked what you did. Do you want to help us on this? And it was about somebody that I'd met and his girlfriend. Now they're married. They're still married 30 plus years later. And the idea that I could do something that was outside of their expectation for how it worked, because they had engineers and they had sales folks, but they didn't have any real creative people. Now, like sociologists are in demand, social anthropologists are in demand, but back then nobody. Visual artists are in demand, hello. Writers are in demand, nobody wanted to write at all. If you can write, you've got it good, and ChatGPT does not write the way a human being writes, so hold on to that. But so I proposed, okay, let's do this, this, and this. Let's do some video. Let's interview them. We'll make a book. We'll make a CD-ROM, and we'll put it on the internet. And Bill Gates had his famous memo that we missed this internet thing, and my budget was approved overnight. And then I had to make it happen. Well, I called everybody I knew trying to find people and saying, this is what we want to do. Can you do this? Can you do this? And people said, oh, that sounds really cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it was getting people to come together to create something that was larger and had not been really done before. This is back in 1994. And it really turned into something that was better than the sum of our parts. And also, it created a family. And that's how I started Catalysis, creating a family. Working with people to find out what drove them and how to give them unqualified positive regard. Oh God, I'm still on this. Oh, geez, I'm supposed to be putting the black slides in the middle. There you go. So anyway, back to the topic of pride. And as I start to wind down, here we go. Is this going to work? Yes. So think about where so many of us get our affirmations today. Oh my God, I'm so popular. I got so many likes. I got so many this. I got so many retweets. I got so many, or re-X's. I don't know what we call them anymore. But we're finding the psychological research on all of this is that it's a very hollow victory. It's a very hollow sense of self. So what is it? Are we our projected selves, the ones that we present to the world? Because nobody puts their bad news on, well, now it was Facebook, but now TikTok or whatever, unless you're like, what is it, catfishing for, oh, I'm having a really bad day. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I love you, honey. I love you, honey. I'm mocking it a little bit, but it's really hollow. How about picking up the phone and calling a friend and saying, I'm having a really bad day. Let's talk about it. Similarly, our accomplishments. Look what I did, look what I did, look what I did, look how wonderful it is. Okay, I'll say, sure, that's great, that's great, that's great. But does that really mean you're great? Back to unqualified positive regard. Does it mean that? I don't know. And so there was something, I don't know, this may be dating myself, but there was something, does anybody remember the Clout score? K-L-O-U-T. When that started, Grant, who is one of the leaders at Catalysis with me, we're like, oh, there's this Clout score, and we entered it, and it was really early on, and our Clout scores went up and up and up, and both of us went, so? What is this for? And I found out that it closed, I looked it up yesterday, like in 2013, was it 2013? 2018? And nobody cares because it's so quantified right there in TikTok and retweets and everything. And so I thought about that because what is that pride in a modern context? And I think part of that is back to those hierarchies and what we subscribe to and what we are told you must work in these areas. And oh my God, no. Is this the wrong one? Did I hit the wrong one?
No, just stop. Stop touching that.
Oh, stop touching it. Okay. Let's stay here for now because I don't know. But I think about the modern hierarchies and all those things that are telling us this is who you should be, this is who you should be. And I think that social media and all that public affirmation is telling you who you should be. Who you should be. Who should be telling you who you should be? Well, duh, right? But I think part of that is also back to pride, back to me being gay, back to coming out, being that kid in Virginia. When you come out, for those of you who are not gay or have not come out, but you come out in so many ways, like I'm a cancer survivor. Sometimes I have to disclose that. You stop juggling multiple versions of yourself. You stop juggling, what do I share with whom? What do I hide from whom? Who am I? I am me in all my strengths and all my failures and everything else. I know this sounds like a woo-woo social social inspirational speech, but I think part of pride is that. It's getting through the having to waste energy. Do you know how much energy it takes to hide different portions of yourself? It takes so much energy. Imagine if you could harvest that energy and turn it into all the amazing things that you do, all the amazing friendships that you have or will soon have. That is where it goes. I was thinking about that idea of wasting energy, and I want to talk a little bit about somebody I went to high school with who was an amazing athlete. Okay, I swam. I wasn't an amazing athlete, but I swam, I dove, I ran cross country. He did some of those too, and he won everything. Absolutely everything. He was incredible. And his father was a Marine, and I didn't know this, but a friend of mine dated him later, and she told me that every time he didn't come in first place, his father beat him. Yeah. Imagine what that does for unconditional love or unqualified positive regard. It very much destroyed him. He felt worthless all the time. And he joined the Marines, interestingly enough, and I don't know where he is today, but I think about that a little bit because that's one form of parenting. It's an old school form of parenting, but sharing your vulnerabilities is another part of parenting. I'm looking at Jeremy and Andrew back there because when my husband and I decided to become parents, we realized it wasn't happening. Something must be wrong. We were trying really hard, but it didn't take. So we looked around for options, and we chose open adoption, which most of you have heard of it. If not, it's where you submit a biography on yourself and your story, and the birth parents choose you, not the agency, not Catholic services, where they say, here's 3 parents that we think are good for you. They have the whole world in the, first they have options counseling, then they get to, do you want to keep the baby? Do you have the resources to parent the baby? If not, do you want to be a part of this child's life and place the baby with a family to raise it? And so I tell you very much, talk about the things that you think are going to disqualify you. Put that in your profile. So back to the uber concept of pride that we're talking about today as it was described in the PR for this event. Being your true self. And I had cancer. I had testicular cancer when I was 36. And funny story about that. I had to get radiation. And so I have no modesty, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're getting radiated for testicular cancer, they put this thing up here called a modesty screen. And they're all on that end of you. And I'm like, I know what it looks like down there. Whose modesty are we trying to protect? Mine? I know what's going on. It was horrifying. So from that point on, I got no modesty. But I put that in our bio. I also live on a houseboat. We live on a houseboat with water all around. My husband, who's got his own anxiety and was very worried people would think, oh my God, they're going to be worried the kid's going to fall in the Lake Union and they're going to and die. And we put that in there. And we waited 8 months and nothing was happening. And you wait and you wait and you wait and we think, oh my God, what do we do? Should we go back and revise these things? What's happening? And we were chosen. And Danette, who's still in our lives, she said that she read so many Dear Birth Parent letters, and I think I advised you on this one too, Jeremy, about, oh, we live in a house with a huge yard, and we have a park down the street, and we have amazing schools. And she said, I saw that houseboat, and I used to swim when I was a kid. I thought, cool, that would be a really good place to grow up. And so there we are with my little baby. That's my husband, and hair. And that was quite a long time ago, but she chose us to raise Kepler. And I got to tell you, one of the hardest things I've ever done, and one of the most, what's the opposite of pride? Like taking all your pride away, not demoralizing, depridifying, there's got to be a word for it, thing, is raising kids, because you can't get it. They don't let you know that you're getting it right or you're getting it wrong. You kind of have to do what you think and give them unqualified positive regard. And so then we had 2 more. And there's our littlest. That's Anton and that's Cordelia. And her birth mother, right before she chose us, died of pancreatic cancer. And she saw that I'd survived cancer. And I'm choking up here because here we are 18 years later. My son just graduated high school, and that is the result of sharing a vulnerability. And I love my work and I love catalysis. My family and my relationships, I think, are some of the most important things that you can have. So really, what is it about? I hope this isn't the one. Oh, it is. Go back. There we go. Okay, stare at that. So we're almost to the end. I don't know how much, did I take up too much time? I'm sorry. So I think really if I'm going to sum this up about what is the modern context of pride, I think it's about personal acceptance of yourself, allowing yourself in all your glory, all your failings, letting it be there, which includes the things you put out there that fail, the things you put out there that succeed. Because when you do that, and this is at the core of it, you give other people courage. You give them the courage and the license to put themselves out there too. And so every day, starting today, I charter every single one of you to go out there and find somebody. And my daughter says to me all the time, we're walking the dog together and I talk to people. You can even be an introvert and do this. My son, who's an incredible introvert, the middle one, over there, that's my daughter. She said she's very shy and he's an introvert, but you can do this too. She said to me, Papa, how do you just talk to people? People talk to you. You talk to everybody. And I said, you know what? That's an interesting question, Cordelia, because now it's a parenting moment. I have to have a right or wrong answer. I got to have a life lesson, right? So I said, well, I think what I do is I notice somebody and I notice something about them and I comment on it. And then I might compliment them on it. And that opens a bridge for communication. And then I listen. And I try to remember. You can't remember everything, but I try to remember. And I was telling earlier that, I didn't tell you guys, but I was telling somebody else. I have a kinesthetic memory. I remember experiences. I remember faces. I'm horrible with names, but I will never forget a face or a name. Experience where I met somebody. And I think that's part of it. I challenge every one of you today to go out and find somebody and compliment them on something and give them some unqualified positive regard. Because it's a cycle and it works and it comes back to you. And I think that creates the kind of pride, if we're going to use that word, that kind of truth, that kind of conscience, that kind of not pre-D with the hierarchy, but the openness of heart that is that's at the source of that. And so I want you to go out there and have the courage to be your wonderful selves, because I have screwed up so many times, and help someone else be their wonderful self. And to end with that, in case you think of hubris, there's a little clip that when you start a catalysis, it gets shared with you, not by me. It probably should get shared by me. I thought it was hidden for a really long time. We'd been working for overnight and maybe 36 hours on releasing something, and I was punch drunk, and I was out of my mind, and I thought, oh, I'll break the tension by doing an Aikido row, because I did Aikido for a very long time as well. I'm not going to do one there because you'll see why. But this has been shared with, I think every employee gets this thing, to maybe say, look, don't be scared of Doug. Take him down a peg or two. And so I'm going to leave you with this, because if I can share this at my absolute worst, I think it was 3 o'clock in the morning, you can go out and make a positive deposit for somebody else. So Rob made me promise to put this in there. In case you don't know it, there is an enormous thump, which the volume wasn't up enough, Jeremy. But, you want to turn it up? We'll do it again. You want to do it again? Okay. It was horrifying. Horrifying. Okay, it was loud. Okay, ready? Here we go. It's funnier, isn't it? Right? That's what everybody thinks about. I think, at your worst, they think about that. So anyway, if my friends from work can have unqualified positive regard for me for being such a goofball, we can all do it, right? So thank you very much.